I think we're live, but it's okay. Yeah, there we go. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
Hey, Mike, and to all of our listeners watching us on YouTube. To anybody that happened to watch last week's episode, we apologize for the technical difficulties between my headset batteries running out, so having to step away and grab my corded headset, and then also and obviously for the episode abruptly ending because we lost the live stream somehow.
Yeah.
But hopefully we're past those issues as we're back on Facebook Live, as our experiment using YouTube Live didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go back to what worked. But Mike,
Yep.
I'm doing good. Another just typical work week here in Davenport. Mike, how are you doing?
You know, it's been a rough week. We didn't talk about it last week on the show, but we had to put our dog down, which sucked.
Mhm.
Which, you know, that part of it, it's... Now, sorry, we're going to go into a little personal time and blah, 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 and that's okay. You guys get that sometimes. We don't do it all the time, but occasionally we like to let you in on our lives and stuff. And so, before we roll the intro or get into sports stuff, we're gonna talk about it because it's life and you got to do that once in a while. So last week we knew Friday, and Rich and I had talked about it, that it was time to put my dog down. She had shown signs and all of that. Me and my wife had good cries. I was glad to say that you couldn't tell on the air that I was crying. I had been crying for hours on end that day. It didn't get any easier. And then we go to the doctor, or we get over to the vet. We call the vet, set up the appointment. We get there, and they're like, okay. And Danielle and her are walking around outside. And then right before we go in, a buddy of ours, a friend of ours from church, was there. And then I have to tell him, and I cry a little bit, but not too terrible. And then we go to they're like, you're going to go back to that back room. And so we walk in, and as soon as we get there, they're like, yeah, go ahead and go to that back room. We'll be right back there with you. We waited there for 20 to 25 minutes.
Mhm.
That was the best thing for us. Because we had to make all of our decisions. We had to do all of the things. We had to make sure we knew what we were doing. And at that point, and once we had done all of that, then we were just waiting. And that waiting meant that we just, like, it was drawing out the agony. And eventually, it got to a point where it was like, can we just get it done with? Like, I just want to be done with this. I don't want to... And the doc came in, and I was in the room the whole time. And it was rough. I don't need to get into the details of the actual euthanizing of our dog. It's rough. It's not a fun thing. Nobody wants to do that. But it happened, and then we went on a motorcycle ride, and it helped clear our head, and it helped. But it's those little things, like when you're walking through, when you walk into a dark room and you see a shadow, and you're like, oh, don't step on the dog, and then you realize that the dog's not there anymore. But those are the rough parts, but, you know, we'll get through it. I mean, it's getting better. We have a friend up here, so that it's been hanging out with him rather than thinking about the little things. And so it's been nice, and it's been a good week. Been a rough week at times. There's moments, but, you know, it's a real mourning process. But we'll get there. So anyway, on a lighter note, we do have sports to talk about. We have lots of stuff to talk about this week.
Mhm.
I'll start. Rich, how about you give me your top two headlines, and then I'll give top two headlines, and we'll move on. We'll get started.
Well, Mike, like we always do, we're going to be going into the NASCAR corner to talk about the last week's race from Texas, as well as give you predictions for this week's race of Talladega, as well as kind of doing a little bit of MLB talk at the end of this show, because we got some historical milestones got reached from
Yep.
show to show.
Yep.
A manager is parting ways, so another job is opening up in baseball. and if we have time, we'll even talk the Masked Singer.
Yeah.
Mike, what else are we going to be talking about? Or
Maybe
what's
not
probably
the
the bulk of the show going to be?
Maybe not the
about?
Masked Singer, because I didn't. It's been a. I didn't get this week's episode.
I said if we had time, so obviously we're not going to have time.
So we're gonna be talking to NFL, and we have tons to talk about in the NFL. Contact and non-contact injuries and the correlation of the two. That's going to be a big topic we talk about this week. Plus, we have our power rankings. All that and more. But first, Rich, what should I do?
Mike, why don't you go ahead and roll that intro?
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.
And we're back. Okay, so Rich, every week we do a poll question. In that poll question, we're in a series of what we're calling jock jams. Those jock jams are videos for which you would hear in a stadium.
Mm-hmm. So last week, Mike, we had I chose Hip Hop Hooray going to go up against Whoop. There it is.
Okay.
So, Mike, while you're bringing up those poll results, I went with Whoop. There it is. Mainly because when you hear that song and you're listening to a Cubs game, that means something good happens. And most of the time that's a home run. So that's typically what the Cubs have used the past couple of years. So that means something good happened. So that's why I went with that song.
Yeah. Speaking of the Cubs, I don't know if you have it in there. I'll have to check. Anyway, I voted the same way, mostly because I know the song. I don't actually know Hip Hop Hooray as well. But I picked the song that I know good things are happening. So let's do it.
Yep.
And with that, there are 3 votes for Whoop, There It Is, and 1 vote.
All right.
1 vote for Hip Hop Hooray.
Okay. Maybe you do. I mean, I know the chorus is like hip hop, hey ho, That's like the chorus of it.
Yeah.
But so you probably know it if you heard it.
Probably.
But not necessarily know it just by the title of the song. So Whoop, There It Is wins.
Yep.
This week we're gonna go with Welcome to the Jungle and 7 Nation Army.
Yeah. This one's a rough one. This one's a hard one for me because I love both of these songs. I don't know where I'm going to vote for yet.
All right, so I'll get that poll. I'll probably get it live either when we go off of air or sometime tomorrow around noon. So, Mike, do you see what's coming up?
Rich, is it a left turn?
It is a left turn, Mike. And what's after that?
Is it another left turn?
It is another left turn, Mike, because we're going to go into the NASCAR Corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Check them out on 5th Avenue in Moline, or you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. So, Mike, last week we were down in Texas for the Auto Trader Ecto Park 500.
I think you mean to say we were deep in the heart of Texas.
The clapping comes after deep in the heart of Texas. Clap, 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 clap.
Whatever.
It's okay. So anyway, Mike, once again, a non-playoff driver wins the race.
Yeah.
Tyler Reddick. So if anything, like almost seems like he won the race 1 week too late, as he was eliminated from the last round.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, so how did our playoff drivers do?
Rich, your playoff driver of Christopher Bell finished in 34th, the worst of all of our drivers that we picked. Mine, Denny Hamlin, finished in 10th. Rich,
all right,
so how did our non-playoff drivers do this week?
Well, for the non-playoff drivers, my pick of Kevin Harvick finished 19th. Your pick of Bubba Wallace came in 25th. So we split the points that week, Mike, and neither of us obviously got the bonus point for getting the race driver correct. So did you get a chance to watch any of the race?
I think I watched like maybe a couple of minutes of it. Oh no, I
Okay.
did watch the ending. I did watch the ending. I remember watching the ending because it was, we had gotten home from our Bible study and it was way late and it was longer
Hmm.
than it went later than I thought it would.
Yeah, I was surprised how late it went too. So I don't. I think I watched most of it. I think I watched at least stages 2 and 3.
Okay.
So a lot of wrecks, a lot of people coming out of the race complaining about the crappy parts on this next gen car, causing a lot of tire
That sounds like
tire
you're
blowouts.
quoting someone specific.
Kevin Harvick was complaining about the
Oh.
parts. It wouldn't surprise me if Kyle Busch had things to say about the parts too, about parts as well.
So
A
Rich,
lot of tires getting blown out on the racetracks, which is
yeah,
causing a lot of wrecks and damage.
yeah. So Rich, we are going to Talladega this weekend, fastest raceway in the circuit for the Yellowwood
Yellowwood.
500.
Yeah, the Yellowwood 500. So Mike, your playoff driver finished much higher than mine in Texas, so you have the honors. Who is your pick?
I'm going to pick Christopher Bell. I think this week he'll have to have a rebound to do something and get back in the points uh, contention. So look for him to try to, and he'll, like, he's a winner, he's out type as of right now. So
Hmm.
look for Christopher Bell to do something good.
All right. I'm gonna go with Ryan Blaney.
Okay.
Um, he's had past success at Talladega, but really, I don't really have much confidence in any of the 8 playoff drivers in this race, as none of them have a good track history running on the super speedways.
Yeah,
But so and really the super speedway races really are a crapshoot,
they
as
really are.
you're fighting to finish the race, not necessarily. And if you win, it's almost like a bonus.
Yep. So Rich, your non-playoff driver finished spots ahead of me. So you get to pick first on that side. What are you picking?
I'm gonna go with Michael McDowell. He's won the Daytona 500. Usually does pretty good on the super speedways, and really anybody can win this type of races. This type of races, Bubba Wallace got his first win at this track,
Yep.
so
So
anybody can get the win there.
everybody but the person I'm going to pick, mostly because we curse him every time we pick him, and we're going to pick Kyle Busch. Not that I think I want him to be cursed, because I really do want the points. Come on now. But Kyle Busch is really good at these super speedways. He just understands how to do it in a right way and how to try to stay either in the back or the front and make something happen. And he's not afraid to use his car as a weapon. So next
All right.
week we're going to talk about give you a standings update, as that is an elimination week.
Yeah, that'll be next week. We'll kind of recap what happens, where the drivers stand in the playoff points on next week's show when we go to the elimination race, which will be at the Charlotte Roval. For our standings, Mike, total season it's 23-16 in favor of you. In the playoffs, though, I have an 8-2 edge.
Yeah.
So, Mike, that was the NASCAR Corner presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Check them out, Fifth Avenue in Moline, or you can also find them on eBay.
So,
So, Mike, we're going to go to the gridiron now.
yep.
Normally we go the MLB, but with the MLB season kind of winding down, and also with so much to talk about in the NFL, I wanted to change things up a little bit, and also make sure that we get in all that content before we kind of run into that hour mark where we try to kind of wrap up the show once we pass the 1 hour mark.
So, Rich, last week every week we give you our picks for lock, upset, and how the Bears are going to do each week, along with the Thursday night game. This week, Rich, you picked the Eagles over the Commanders for your lock of the week. You got it, as the Eagles won 24-8, making the Commanders look like fools. You are 2-0-1 on the season.
That's right. So, Mike, your lock of the week was the Chargers over the Jaguars. You're still 0-3 on locks of the week, as the Jaguars actually pulled off an upset and won in convincing fashion, 38-10. And I think
we might need to rewind and talk about the whole week as a whole, and how many teams that should have been locks got upset this week.
Yeah, and
it was a rough week, and we're going to get to that when we talk about our power rankings. It was a rough week when it comes down to it. Okay, but let's move on, Rich. So I picked the Broncos over the 49ers as my upset of the week. I got it. 11-10. Squeaking out the victory were the Broncos, bringing me to a 2-1 for upsets. Rich, how'd you do on your upset?
Well, Mike, I said the Falcons were going to beat the Seahawks in Seattle, and the Falcons came through for me as they won 27-23. And also, to Chicago Bears, they were playing the Texans in Chicago, and they pulled off the win, 23-20. Mike, we both said they would win, so both our records in picking the Bears is 2-1, which matches the Bears' record.
Yeah, but hopefully our record is going to be better than the Bears. Likelihood is our record will be better than the Bears by the end of this week.
We'll find out next week, as we'll get you our pick for the Bears game here coming up here in a couple minutes. Thursday night football, Mike.
There was controversy going into this game.
There was.
Big controversy. By the way, if I would have seen Sunday's games, I would have picked differently for Thursday night, but we don't do it
exactly.
that way.
And I saw that you did flip your pick on the Yahoo Pick'em pool, as you did flip, but on the show outline on the show last week, before it cut off, you did say the Dolphins were going to win.
Yeah, and
I agreed with you and go with the Dolphins.
Going into last week, I thought they would have, but Sunday. So, Rich, how did it end up?
It was a 27-15 Bengals win, and with the Bengals winning and us getting it wrong for Thursday night football, we are both 2-2.
Okay, that brings us into our topic of Tua Tagovailoa's 2 injuries, as well as some injuries, some other injuries caused by something, in my theory, but there is some evidence to back it up. Let's start with Tua, because that's the big one of this. Tua Tagovailoa on Sunday gets a nasty tackle. Like, it wasn't ugly and it wasn't dirty. It just resulted in what looked like a very terrible landing of his head smacking the ground, which we'll get to that part of it, because there's some important parts about that ground we need to talk about. And he's shaking his head like, man, where am I? He stands up, has to shake it off again, falls over, falls into his teammates' arms, then gets walked off the field to go into concussion protocol under the tent like it's supposed to be done. Okay. They say it's a back injury.
And an ankle injury. What was reported. That's what was reported as wrong.
That's what was reported.
Time of the game.
What did you see the hit on Sunday?
I did not see Sunday's hit.
Okay.
I only saw Thursday's hit.
Everybody, I saw it. I thought this is not. I saw it in real time because Red Zone's game of the week was the Dolphins and Buffalo, so I was getting to watch that. And then so I saw it. I said that's not a back or an ankle. That's a concussion. We all know it is. But he got to come back in the game after
Yes.
2 plays. I think it was. He gets to come back in the game, leads the team to a victory. Looks a little shaky, but not terrible for the second half or after he comes back. Multiple people said there's no way he's playing in 4 days. If you have a back injury, Rich, that's causing you to fall over, and an ankle injury that's so bad you can't walk on it, what's the likelihood you're going to be able to make it back in 4 days? 7 days? Maybe. 4 days?
Very, very unlikely. But what was going on between the weeks, and probably on the sidelines too, was Tua was going over to the coach. Hey, coach, I'm ready to go back in. I'm ready.
Yeah.
And while I was driving to pick up some dinner for us one night, listening to, I think it either was Jason Fitz's late evening show, and they were saying that he called the coach the next morning, like the next morning or later on in the middle of the night, saying, "Hey, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go if I get cleared to play." And
Yeah, that's
obviously
crazy.
he may not have been ready, because what happened on Thursday night, Mike?
Thursday, almost an identical tackle. And Tua is out cold. If you looked at it, he was asleep. He was out. And his hands go into this weird thing like this, and it's called the fencing pose. It happens when you get brainstem injury. This is some serious stuff, people. So, one, you had leading concussion experts screaming all week, do not let Tua play. This is wrong if you do it. You need to be fired. This is ridiculous. Don't do it. It's not worth it. They let him play. He gets injured so bad, they cart him off the field. They take him to the hospital. He gets released. And then he flew home with the team.
Yep, flew home with the team. And there's already reports. I could have swore I saw something when I was scrolling through my my Facebook, kind of like on the news page of Facebook, and supposedly he's already telling the coach, "Hey, I'm ready to go. When do I get to come back in and play?" At what point does the team need to save Tua from himself?
Yeah, and I think that's where we're at. We need to save Tua from himself. He needs to. We know you're tough. We know you're not weak. We know we don't think that Tua. Please protect yourself, because it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah,
I'm scared for you.
Yeah, I mean it's not worth it to come back so quickly from this type of injury just to shed that label that you're a fragile quarterback who can't maybe hold up to the rigors of the pro game, because he's gotten injured almost in every single year that he's been in the NFL as a full-time starter. And I mean, I don't know if this has to do with his contract status of maybe the team not giving him an extension, or the when the Dolphins were pursuing Deshaun Watson in a trade,
Yeah.
and supposedly getting tampering with Tom Brady,
Yep.
of him wanting to prove to the team that, hey, I can be your long-term quarterback. Give me that opportunity, and I'm going to show you why you should commit to me.
The
And I think a
problem
lot
with this
like-
is he's going to end up dead. 2 of these severe brain injuries in a week can kill you. I can't imagine what's going to happen if he plays in 10 days and has something similar happen. By the way, speaking of, we also need to rewind. I talked about how he hit the ground. But what kind of ground is it? In both circumstances, it's this substance called field turf. By the way, Sterling Shepard had what looked like an unexplained injury on 2 days ago, or on Sunday. Sorry, on Sunday. No, was it Monday? Was Monday the? Either way, the Giants Cowboys. Was that Sunday or was that Monday, Rich?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Cowboys Giants, was that Sunday or Monday?
That was a Monday game.
Okay,
that was a Monday.
So
game.
Sterling on Tuesday. Yeah, that's right, because Tuesday they were talking about it. Monday they talked about Tua all day. Tuesday they talked about Sterling Shepard running a route, and because of the way that this type of turf is. So let me explain to you what it is. It's a slab of concrete, and then on top of that they put these little beanbag things, and then there's this grass stuff this grass synthetic that goes on top of it. Now, one of the problems is what we saw with Tua. As you get hit and you go to the ground, you're basically landing on concrete. There's hardly any padding there. So you're landing on concrete, and on top of it, you have your weight plus the weight of another 180 to 300 pound man landing on top of you. The sandwich or the forces between that and the transferred forces there are so incredibly strong, and you're literally hitting a concrete slab. There's a reason why Tua's smacking his head like that is as bad as it is. Whereas on grass, there's softness to it. On real grass, there is softness to it, and it actually is better for the players.
Yeah, I mean, that type of playing surfaces is a lot better than the AstroTurf that a lot of teams had, that a lot of teams even used. We even being in an outdoor stadium.
Yeah, even
being in an outdoor.
Yeah, it was
Soldier Field used to have AstroTurf.
Yeah, it's a terrible, that is a terrible thing. But yeah, real grass is what you need to have. There are reasons why soccer pitches are immaculate grass, and the non-contact injuries are nearly non-existent there. I mean, you could say that some of the contact injuries are actually non-contact injuries, the way that those guys flop. But, yeah, what we need to do is get away from this. And the only reason, Rich, why do you put that in there? Why do you put the field turf in there?
There's less maintenance on it.
Yep.
Less maintenance, and for the teams that have the retractable roofs or a dome, you don't have to worry about the grass dying, or how are you going to keep the grass alive in an indoor stadium?
Those are even less of the reason. The biggest reason, you can turn your venue into a multi-purpose facility. Because that stuff comes up and it moves really easily, and the concrete is perfect to put concerts on, and you don't have to worry about if you put staging on top of it. It doesn't give. You don't get holes in it. You don't have to worry about it that much. It's because it makes it like the football stadiums that we've seen turn into basketball courts.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that can be done is because they have this field turf. It is terrible. It is what is killing our young people who are dying of injuries from getting concussed multiple times in under 5 days. By the way, did you know that there's a term for that?
No, I did not.
Second impact syndrome. getting a hit like that within the first 5 days of an initial injury can cause death. By the way, that's not me. That is Chris Nowinski, one of the leading experts in the field of concussion care. Talked about how Tua shouldn't be playing and how Tua's injuries are that if Tua sustains another one of these type injuries, it could kill him. And yet we still see the team ignoring experts calling for more review of his health. By the way, Miami has a history of this. In 2017 or 16, was it Matt Moore in the playoffs? You're not remembering it. Okay.
No,
You're normally pretty good.
So currently 14 stadiums have a synthetic playing surface on them, but two teams have figured out, even though they play indoors predominantly due to the hot weather, how to make it work so they can still have a grass field. The Raiders and the Cardinals have a system in place where when the game's not going on, they have a system of rollers where they roll the grass playing surface out of the stadium to get it outdoors so it can get natural light and so it can grow and be healthy grass. But Mike, I'm not
by the way
100% sure of this.
By the way, Matt Moore in the second half of a playoff game was put back in the game after being knocked out by a Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker, and he was cleared and re-entered the game. Miami has a history of this. I'm sorry. You were saying?
No, and I was saying I think even a couple of the local high school stadiums around here have this field turf on it, doesn't it? I think it's Rocky and Brady Street Stadium have field turf on them.
Those both do. We actually have a field. Algona up here has a field turf stadium, and actually our kids played there last week, and my wife can tell you that the kids have bruises and cuts and stuff like that from the playing at that surface. It was terrible. So yeah, it's not a good thing. If you have family or friends at a stadium that have that, I would bring up that this needs to be removed, and I think it needs to be removed from top to bottom. So Rich, in your opinion, Tua was released from concussion protocol both at the game on Sunday and at check-ins throughout the week. Is it worth risking it after 4 days of him having an injury like that, even if it's a back? Let's say truly he didn't have a concussion and it was actually a back injury on Saturday or on Sunday, and and an ankle injury. Is it worth it for this game for him to be in there? You are making the decision as a head coach, not as the player, for the long-term health of your team.
I would say no. I mean, if you truly think that Tua's the long-term answer and you're going to commit to him, regardless of how good or bad this season goes, you got to think long-term. I mean, because even if you look at it from a short-term window of, well, we need to win. We figure we need to win X amount of games to make it to the playoffs this year, or keep pace with the Bills to win the division. A loss to the Bengals isn't I think the Bengals game really was a little bit of a toss-up. Even if Tua
Yeah.
was really healthy, it would have been a good loss.
Yep.
It wouldn't have been a bad loss because everybody is expecting the Bengals to be a playoff team this year.
By the
Now,
way, does a bad loss count against you in anything but the court of A, public opinion, and B, you and Mi's power rankings, which we know everybody in the NFL cares about?
no, it doesn't. Or even like a mainstream media outlet like ESPN or Fox Sports, CBS. No, a good loss, bad loss, it doesn't matter.
You talk about it for 5 minutes. By the way, we're talking about this right now, but how many of the sports shows are gonna talk about it Monday morning? They talked about it today. How many sports shows on Monday morning are going to talk about the Tua injury?
I don't think too many of them will because
Why?
that's last week's news. That's last week's
Well,
news.
because we're talking about the 10 other games we watch. The fact that we had NFL football from 6 in the morning if you're in the West,
Mm-hmm.
8 in the morning for us here, through 10 o'clock at night.
Yep, Monday morning you're talking about what happened on Sunday, but also looking ahead on, well, hey, who's playing Monday night?
Yeah. And then Tuesday you're talking about Monday night's game and you're looking ahead to the next Thursday's game. We're going to drop this. We're going to drop this. Media's going to drop it. It's not going to be a big deal until next Friday, a week from today.
Yep, when the injury reports start coming out on how are they going to list Tua?
Yep. And it's Tua.
Right now he's out. Right
As-
now, that's the status that's
Yep.
next to his name across the on the both of the platforms that I play fantasy football on, Yahoo and the Sleeper app.
Yeah.
But how soon is he going to change to doubtful or questionable or probable?
Yeah.
And then go back down the questionable before being ruled out.
And the bigger thing's going to be 11 days from now. 11 days from now is when we're going to be talking about this again. And here's why. We'll talk about it when the injury report comes out. We'll talk about it then. No big deal. Then we'll talk about it if he plays, and that's the only reason we'll talk about it again. Is if he plays and something else happens. If nothing happens, if he plays great, he comes back and he's totally fine, okay. Subject over.
Yeah, because then if he gets hurt again and it's non-concussion related, then the topic shifts to he's too fragile. He's not. You can't trust you can't have him be your long-term quarterback because he can't stay healthy.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it's sad, but you won't hear about it again for at least a week, and then it's just going to be, is Tua coming back? And then if it's a yes, then it's why is he coming back? And if it's a no, then you won't actually hear about it. And then if he plays on a week from Sunday, that's going to be the next part of the conversation. It's all. By the way, I think Miami's damned if they do, damned if they don't. So
yeah.
Anything else on this conversation you want to talk about before we head on and talk about this week's picks?
Not really, Mike. Let's keep the line moving. Week 4 picks, Mike. So, Mike, it is an even week, so you have the first choice for a lock of the week. So, Mike, who are you going to go with?
So, I am going to pick the only real lock of the week, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually want it to not be true, which is even more reason for me to pick it. Packers over the Patriots.
Yeah, I really looking over the schedule. I also agree that that's really the only true lock of the week. And so, yeah, if you didn't take it, I was going to. So kind of having the leftovers, I'm going to go with probably the only other matchup I see as a true lock. And I'm going to take Cooper Rush and the Cowboys to keep it going and beat up on the Commanders.
Yeah, the Commanders
really
are weak right now.
Inconsistent.
So it could be a good week for them if they show up in good week Commanders. You could be on Hurton Street next week, if they show up as the as the bad Commanders, it's going to be an easy game for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm really not that worried about it either way. I had the pick a lock of the week, and that's the one I chose. I thought there were a lot more upsets on the schedule this week, which leads me to Mike. Who are you taking as your upset of the week?
So I need this team to do better because I made a prediction about them at the beginning of the year. The Carolina Panthers over the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're starting to put things together. The big thing, and this is why I say it. Baker Mayfield has been in Carolina long enough to finally get that playbook under his belt and to feel comfortable in the scheme. The team, the coaching staff has finally gotten comfortable with Baker to make the scheme work for him. They're finally getting in sync. Watch for them to start making a roll, and that's going to happen again this week.
All right. So, Mike, before I decided on the Cowboys, I was almost tempted to pick the Cardinals over the Panthers as my lock of the week.
I can understand that.
But the Cardinals are having problems putting up points on the board, which is kind of weird because Cliff Kingsbury and his air raid offense is known for being a high-scoring offense, and they're just not putting it together. So, yeah, I could see the Panthers winning the game. So, for my upset of the week, I think this is more of a toss-up, but we judge our upsets based on the pick distribution on Yahoo, and this one's pretty wide margin in favor of the Bills. So I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens staying hot and upsetting the Bills.
I think the Bills have something to prove this week, and I think you'll see them do it. So, Rich, the Bears play the Giants in San Francisco. I marked it as a loss. In New York. I'm sorry, New York.
New Jersey.
It's
New Jersey.
It's New York. What's the logo say?
It says New York.
Okay. Are you going to be one of those people from New Jersey that says they don't play in New York, they play in New Jersey?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, well. What are you going to call the Bears in 2 years?
Okay. But they're not crossing the state lines.
But they don't play in Chicago.
No, they might not play in Chicago.
What do you call the Cowboys?
The Dallas Cowboys, even though they play in Arlington, Texas. Yes, I still call the San Francisco 49ers the San Francisco 49ers, even though they play in Santa Clara. And the Rams of the Chargers are not known as the Inglewood Chargers and Rams. They're known as the Los Angeles Rams. All right. You got me there. So, Mike, they're going into the New York, New Jersey Metroplex. Are they going to win or lose?
Oh, they're not going to win. They're going to lose.
Yeah, I think they're going to lose as well. I originally had this as a win.
If I could make this my lock of the week, this would have been my lock of the week.
Okay.
But we exclude the Bears games because we talk about it already. Okay, Rich, Thursday night, you got the Colts going to the Mile High Stadium. How's that going to end?
I'm going to give it to the Broncos mostly because I have a lot of fantasy stock in the Denver offense. So sooner or later, the Broncos got to figure it out and how they're going to run their offense.
Yeah.
And one thing that I saw was that typically it took Aaron Rodgers about 3 games to get comfortable and get that offense humming with when Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator up in Green Bay. So Wilson's had 3 weeks with him, so maybe this is the week where things finally start to click.
And that's not a bad thing. That's kind of what I'm doing with Carolina and Baker Mayfield. So, you know, I'm not opposed to that concept, but I still think the Colts are going to pull it off. The Colts are starting to click as well with Matt Ryan. He's starting to feel comfortable there and start getting that stuff down. So, I mean, The guy was in Atlanta for what, 15 years?
Yeah, a long time. And he never played in an Andy Reid system.
Right.
With a lot of different terminologies and scheming.
He's having to figure out how to get to the stadium still, let alone the playbook. So, yeah, I think he's finally getting to the point where he's comfortable getting to the stadium without thinking about it. It's just, this is how I get to work. So, I think the Colts are going to pull it off for similar reasons to why the Broncos are a good pick as well. So, I think it'll be a really good game. Look for that Thursday on Amazon Prime. Rich, ready to do our power rankings? We didn't get to do them last week. We're going to get into them this week. You and I are a lot closer on a lot of them than I thought we would be at the beginning.
Okay.
Let's get started.
All right, Mike. So in my number one spot, even though they lost last week, I kept them at number one because I thought they lost to a good football team. So I kept the Buffalo Bills at number one, even though they lost last week.
Yeah, I also I moved the Buffalo Bills to number one. I think their loss was better than the Kansas City loss, and so I'm going to leave them at number one. Number two, Rich, I have the Kansas City Chiefs.
I kept the Chiefs there as well. I had them there last week. I've had them at number two since we started doing our power rankings. Once again, they also lost, but we were kind of always expecting the Indianapolis Colts to be a playoff team and kind of walk away with that division. At least I thought they would. So I didn't think of that as a bad enough loss to move them down ahead of the team that I have at number three, and one of the few teams that going into Thursday night's game was one of the two remaining 3-0 teams. So I put the Miami Dolphins at number three.
I actually put a different 3-0 team at number three.
Okay.
And this one is going to shock you, Rich, because I gave them zero credit at the beginning of the year. The Philadelphia Eagles, number three.
Yeah, I put them. I have them at number four, and I kind of was struggling on, well, do I put the Eagles up at four? But I really liked that the Dolphins had wins against a good Baltimore team and a good Buffalo team, where the Eagles really haven't had to face a team that we were really expecting to have do a good long playoff run this year.
Of note, I do my power rankings in my head Tuesday. I sit down, I spend time at lunch watching the 4-minute highlights of each games, or the 5-minute. I think it's the 5-minute highlights of each game that you can find. Watch them all. Do my power rankings through that. Because I can't watch every game. I just can't sit down and watch every game. Don't have time to do that. It's where it's at. I also don't have the luxury of having the ability. I don't have, what's it called? So I saw that injury for Tua, and I said, I don't trust him yet. I think he should be questionable, and I think it should be a multi-week injury. And I did that Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand by that choice on Tuesday. And today, if I were to rank them, Miami would be even lower. That's why that is why I didn't put them at number three. Mine, you said you had the Eagles at number four. My number four is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
There's a little bit of a gap between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
We'll get there where I have them at. But when I was doing my power rankings, I look at what have you done for me lately. I'm not necessarily looking into the future on what that loss could do for you. I mean, I'm looking at the standings. I'm looking at who they won, who they beat, who they've beaten, and who they've lost.
That's what you do now. But 10 weeks from now, you're then putting teams that you think are going to actually make the playoffs
Yeah,
over
by
teams
all means.
over
By all
teams
means,
that
yeah.
you think aren't.
Yeah,
Even though
I
their
do-
records
I do
don't
switch
match,
it.
which is
Yeah.
so in 10 weeks when when you're saying that some NFC team that has a one game over 500 record has a 6-4 record, when we're sitting here and you have them higher than an NFC or an AFC team that has a 8-2 record, because the 8-2 record in the AFC being so stacked is not enough to get you into the playoffs in certain divisions, and you're going to make that argument.
I would like to point out last year was the first year that I did that, so maybe I won't do it that way this year.
I'm just saying. But
I know, and I can understand that.
And I understand both arguments, but I was looking at
winning your division and having a playoff spot. My reason of thinking at the time, and it might be when you start rolling around and you start looking at, you know what, who would the playoff teams be if the season ended today?
Yeah.
And maybe I'll go out to that, and maybe I'll save that type of ranking until maybe weeks 17 and 18. 17 and 18, the last 2 weeks.
And I get it. I just got to give you a little crap for it because
I know.
Because you do the same.
So you put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 4.
Correct.
All right. Who'd you put at number 5, Mike?
Number 5, I have the Baltimore Ravens.
That's where I put the Ravens as well. Number 6, Mike.
This is where I finally put Miami. They have tons of talent. The addition of Waddle, or the tag team of Waddle and Hill have made that team scary good. There is so much to be said for the greatness that they are going to be able to pull off, because you have to cover both of them, and you can't double either of them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That team looks scary. I think even with Teddy Bridgewater, I still think they could be a playoff team, but I don't think they are a top 5 team with Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay. And by all means, I mean, next week when I do the rankings, more than likely the Dolphins aren't going to be at number 3.
Okay.
More than likely they will not.
So who do you have at number 6?
That's where I put them. Number 6 is where I put the Green Bay Packers.
Not a bad pick there. I have them at 7, so that's pretty darn close.
Okay. So the 7 is where I went with the LA Rams.
Man, you are one step ahead of me on this one, as well as I have them. Or no. I have them at 8.
8 is where I put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh.
And they might start. But the thing is, Mike, they've been winning, but it hasn't been. They haven't been winning the ways that
they haven't been Tom Brady
in the fashion.
Wins. Yeah.
They haven't been Tom Brady wins. They've been wins. They've been ugly wins, close wins with the defense stepping up and making a big play.
You're right.
To get it there. So that's why I put the Bucs at 8. They're starting to get their offensive skill players back. Back this week, so more than likely the Buccaneers are going to be moving up in the rankings as long as they continue to win.
And Rich, are you sitting down for this next one?
We'll see, Mike. So my number 9 is the Minnesota Vikings.
I like that pick. Again, you're one ahead of me, as I have them at 10.
Okay, who did you put at number 9?
The Dallas Cowboys.
All right, we're not far off, because I put them at 11. Didn't quite make the top 10.
Okay.
My number 10, I gave it to the Denver Broncos. They're winning games. They're winning ugly, but they're winning games.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
Sometimes it doesn't matter how you win.
You're
as
right.
long as you get the W.
You are right. But don't they feel like they're a 1-2 team? They feel like they are a 1-2 team and not a 2-10 team, 2-1 team.
Yeah, because that San Francisco game could have gone either way.
They feel like they should have, and they feel like they could be 0-3. In all honesty, they feel like they could have gone. They could be 0-3. I don't understand it. I still have them at 11. Who do you?
All right.
And you gave your 11, which is the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rich, we'll hit our other. Where do you have the third team in the NFC North?
I put the Lions at 21 and the Bears at 24.
Okay, I have the Lions at 22.
Okay.
And then
where did you put the Bears?
We'll get to that in just a second. Rich, who do
right.
you have at 32?
32, I put the Houston Texans. They
Okay.
still can't put together a win. They still can't put together a good win. So that's where I put them at.
Yeah. I told
31.
I have.
Who did you have?
I have. I mean, the exact same thing. You're
Okay.
100% correct. Especially with a Lovie Smith who has looked to tie games instead of win games. Can't go for that. 31. I have the New York Jets.
31 is where I put the Panthers. At the
Okay.
time that I ranked this, they're just showing that they're having problems putting points on the board. And
Yeah.
their one win was a close win against the Jacoby Brissett Browns.
Yeah, I get it, and we could talk about that in just a second. But
Okay.
number 30 is where I have the Atlanta Falcons.
This is where I put the Seattle Seahawks.
See, I can't put the Seahawks there because I think the Seahawks are better than Atlanta, and so I have the Seahawks at 29.
All right. 29 is where I put the Falcons.
And
So we're not that far off, and maybe that tiebreaker was that Atlanta beat Seattle.
Yeah,
And if I'm looking at, man, which one do I put? Which one gets the higher? Which one gets the lower? And they had a recent head-to-head. I got to give it to the team that won.
Yeah, I think the problem is that for some reason, I trust Drew Lock slightly more than I trust. I don't even know who's in Atlanta.
Marcus Mariota, but
Yeah,
Drew Lock hasn't even seen the field yet. It's Geno Smith, Mike.
Oh, I trust Geno more than I trust Mariota. Okay, and then I have the Chicago Bears.
At number 28.
No, at 27. I thought I gave you the Carolina Panthers. Panthers are where I have. Carolina Panthers are where I have.
I put the
28.
Jets at 28.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. And then I have the Bears at 27.
All right. I put the Bears up at 24 mainly due to their 2-1 record, which hasn't really. I don't know. Maybe I'm weighing that.
I think you're going to see them
49ers.
plateau quite a bit for their year. This is the high peak. I don't see them winning a game for a while. The Jets are better than them. The Vikings are better than them. And then if the right Commanders show up, or if the Commanders get their stuff into gear, the Commanders are a significantly better team than them when they're playing well.
So basically, when the second half Commanders show up because they're having to put points on the board to stay in the game or get back in the game.
Yep. And I'm totally okay with that. I really am okay with that. It's just I don't know. For some reason I think that the Bears are going to lose most of the rest of the games of the year. I think they may only win one more game the rest of the year, and so
that's tough.
I think they are plateaued for the year. It's hard to say, but that's where we're at. Okay, Rich, we are at 58 minutes. Let's do a quick recap of the Cubs and give our projections for the next week, and then we will. Let's go to the MLB. Rich, this week the Cubs went. The Cubs are 5-1 on the week, and in that 5-1, they have won 5 consecutive as of today.
It's been a great stretch of baseball, and they beat the Phillies, who are fighting for a playoff spot.
By the way,
they swept not only this weekly series, but the entire season series against the Phillies.
By the way, the Phillies, if they make the playoffs, how many we're gonna put this in a term that you and I understand.
Mm-hmm.
How many blockbusters were open the last time the Phillies made the playoffs? The answer is over 10,000. Over 10,000. Yikes. Now there's one. Okay, this
All right,
week
Mike.
they have 2 against the Reds in Chicago and 3 against the Reds in Cincy.
I'm gonna keep the good thing. I'm gonna keep the good times rolling, Mike, and I'm gonna say they get 4 wins.
I say they're gonna end the season with a perfect 10-game winning streak,
Okay.
winning the last 5.
All right, Mike. So the playoffs start October 7th,
Yep.
which is more than likely before we go on air. Would you like to make predictions this week or next week? Because if anything, we would only, by the time if we went on air on Friday night,
the games wouldn't be over.
the games either not all the games would be over, or even if we did Saturday afternoon, there's still a chance that maybe some of the series will be 1-0. So I think we can. I think
Let's put that off till next week. We do
Okay.
have some great history to talk about. Last week, while we were doing our show, history was made.
that's right. Albert Pujols joined the 700 home run club by hitting 2 homers at Dodger Stadium.
Which he spent some time in, which is why it meant so much to the city as well as to it was a great sight. I love it. I'm happy. I was happy to see it. As a Cubs fan, I double liked multiple friends posting it, meaning I liked it and then I posted a comment saying, as a Cubs fan, I even double like this.
Gotcha. All right.
I'm happy.
Aaron
for him.
Judge. Yeah. Aaron Judge also can write his name into the record books, as he, I believe he tied. I think right now he is tied with Roger Maris. I don't think he has passed him yet. But the kind of the magic number to meet is that I believe he did hit home run number 61 within the 154 game
Yeah.
stretch, meaning that he technically did pass. He tied the American League record in less games than Roger Maris.
Yep. So another story coming out of that is that he's getting walked a lot. And we saw this.
Fans are booing him.
By the
Fans
way,
are really booing.
By the
that.
way, here's the thing. Don't boo the team that's walking him. Boo the hitters behind him. They're hitting at like 175 or something like that when he's been walked. That it makes more sense to walk him than it makes to not walk him. It's the hitters behind him fault, not the pitcher's fault. So, yep, great.
That's a neat perspective on that, Mike. I like that.
Great to see history being made once again, and this time in a clean way. We will talk 3 weeks of Masked Singer next week, and we'll talk about what's going on with the Pro Bowl. Rich, you have one final story to tell us. What is it?
Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly and the Marlins have agreed to part ways.
At the end of the season.
It believes it's both kind of came out and said the team needs a new voice.
Yeah.
So he's going to step away and not have his contract renewed next year.
Okay, Rich, I am seeing no shout-outs on the show for this week. You had a shout-out you needed to make last week.
I did. I got a list. Well, now it's a belated birthday to my father-in-law, Ron, and as well as to my brother, Josh.
Yeah.
And because my wife's birthday is next Friday, we'll give her a pre-birthday shout-out. So happy birthday to my lovely wife, Amy. Thanks, as always, to let me come on to kind of step away from hanging out and watching movies and TVs or playing games, to kind of step away and have these conversations and do this funny show with Mike every week.
Yep. With that being said, Amy, happy birthday. We will talk to you guys next week. Maybe we'll do a Skype call and kind of play a video game or something.
Mm-hmm.
We'll figure something out. Maybe a board game. We'll see. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us. If you are watching us on Facebook and you want to take us on the road, check us out wherever you find your podcasts. We are on all of the major platforms. Rich, they listen to us in a podcast form. They don't want to join us on Facebook to participate in our poll questions at our fan page, Fans of Balls and Sticks. And they don't want to watch us live. Where can they catch us?
If you want to watch the video portion of the show, you can always look us up on YouTube. Wherever you watch or listen to us, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're watching us live, and if you're watching this at a later date on Facebook, make sure to subscribe to it so you get the update or notification of when we go live.
Yep.
So you can leave a reaction or a comment, which can get you a shout out at the end of the episode.
Yep. So, Rich, let's roll the outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.